Welcome back to the Forging Alpha podcast. Caleb and Rick here, and we've got some guests today. So I will let you go ahead and give the formal introductions.
Yeah, we got our buddies from Synergy Financial Partners. You guys can introduce yourselves, tell us about it, and tell us about the business.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jake Huggins, originally from about an hour north of Atlanta, but then came out here to school at Kansas State University. And so financial stuff was not my thing growing up whatsoever. I was real into working out. So I thought I was actually going to be a strength coach. And then when I was playing in college, I saw the life of a college strength coach.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know.
Not the most glamorous.
Yeah, maybe not for me. So, but it was funny because while I was in college, NIL started.
Yeah.
You know how they started paying the college athletes and stuff. And so I wasn't getting paid very much whatsoever. I guess I didn't have very much likeness about me. But a lot of my buddies started to get 6-7 figures a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So just watching their habits. I mean, you can imagine being 18 years old, getting 6 figures. It was a nightmare. I mean, just blowing a ton of their money. And I remember this one moment where I was talking to one of our teammates in the locker room, and I was just kind of being like talking smack to him. And he was telling me about all the money he was getting. And I was like, it's all fun and games until that tax bill comes. This guy didn't know he had to pay taxes.
You would think, for some reason, I assumed that when these guys are getting those kind of deals, there's something in place to help educate them a little bit on it, but that's just not the case, is it?
Yeah, and honestly, we did have some people come in, but even myself included, I didn't listen to them at all. It was because it was just usually some older man that you couldn't really relate to. But just watching the mistakes so many people made, it was like, maybe this is an area where I could make a big impact. Being a former athlete, people would connect with me, and then started with an internship program with Synergy Financial Partners, and really just did that part-time while I was in school, and then got to a point where it was a full-time gig when I graduated and moved to KC, and here we are today.
Awesome.
I love it. What about you, Sam?
Yes, sir. So my name's Sam Shields. I'm out here in Olathe, and I also played football at Kansas State University. I was born and raised in Manhattan, so I spent, I guess 23 years of my life there, and then finally got out here. But similar to Jake, I kind of noticed as well, just like he was talking about, guys start getting paid all this money. No one really knows what to do with it. I feel like you got a lot of outside noise trying to pull you in different directions, and the education wasn't just provided for these guys. So it was something where I saw too, just how big the opportunity is to be able to help people and be able to give back to guys that we were in similar positions to. Similar to Jake, I wasn't a guy getting paid any of that NIL money, but I did understand, where college athletics and the landscape of it was moving toward, and saw how big the opportunity was to be able to be someone that has been in that position before, sitting in those chairs, whether that be in a team room or, team meetings and things like that, and just being able to have somebody that has had the experience, has gone through the same things, and somebody that they can actually relate to, somebody that isn't too far removed from college athletics, that can, come in and give back and be able to help these guys out. So
You can
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you can relate to some of the thoughts that are running through those guys' heads a little bit better than, like you were saying, the 50, 60-year-old guy that's coming in to talk to
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just thinking this guy wants my money.
Yeah.
I've been in your shoes. It's a completely different thing. And, a bunch of our teammates work with us too. And I didn't miss those 6 a.m. runs. I did miss the locker room and all that. So having like a team environment with what we're doing.
All pushing towards the same thing.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, love that. So, majority of our listeners and who we gear this toward is younger guys that trying to level up all aspects of life, faith, family, finance, fitness. So I think this is a great talk to be having about the financial side, because you don't learn fuck all when you go to school. Like you go the entire course of the way through high school and college, and you don't learn about taxes. You don't learn about financial literacy, any of that. So when you're coming into talk with a team, a college team, or talk with a young guy, what are the main talking points for setting themselves up for life? And then even just based on, you know, the economy, like the shit we're going through, because it's not getting any easier to set yourself up for yourself, for your family, and then later in life.
Yeah, great question. And really it just starts with like the foundation of how money really does work for people. Things as simple as like compound interest and the rule of 72. Have you ever heard of the rule of 72?
I've heard of it. Give me a little detail.
Yeah, so like simple equation, but it tells you how long it's going to take for your money to double
Yeah.
based off an interest rate. So you take the number 72, divide that by your expected rate of return,
Mm-hmm.
and then that tells you how long it's going to take for your money to double. And then things with taxes as well, like people, especially when they're getting large sums of money, don't think about the impact on taxes
Mm-hmm.
on their money. I mean, if you look at in your typical savings account, and this is a hypothetical, but say you had $1 and it doubles every year for 20 years. Well, on average, for every dollar your money grows in your savings account, it's taxed 28 cents. So we'll say we have two accounts here. One gets taxed every time it doubles, and then one is tax-free.
Mm-hmm.
In this account where it gets taxed, you have around $50,000 in the end after the 20th double, where on the right-hand side, you have over $1 million. So really just starting to, I say it's like building a skyscraper.
Yeah.
We come in, build that foundation, and then they kind of custom tailor it to their own goals
Yeah.
from there.
So when you're saying, so go, I'm gonna get into the weeds on this a lot, but especially too, like for guys, you know, when you're saying tax free versus like a basic savings account, like what are you referring to on that? Are you talking like tax deferred accounts, like investment accounts and stuff?
Yeah, that certainly could be a strategy, but oftentimes it's also like I say, coming out here to Kansas, I picked up this analogy of you can pick to pay taxes on the seed or the harvest.
Yeah. That's a good
And
way of putting it.
kind of talking with these guys about I'd rather pay taxes on, of course, all their situations are different, but 1,000 a month now than 2-3 million later. And most people, they've never been taught it. It's not their fault, but it's kind of the first time they've ever heard this stuff. So,
Yeah.
but you don't know. I heard someone say, what you don't know can't hurt you is the biggest lie ever. And that's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that ignorance tax, right? It's the opportunity cost of not knowing what you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's each of your guys' like 1% edge? Like Sam, what's your 1% edge that you focus on within a company and you help people with?
I would say for me, something that I really have gotten into on the college athletics side of things is being able to go in and teach these things to entire teams. Something that I'm really focusing on right now is building out kind of a month-long curriculum. So maybe that's one time a month. So once a week for a month, being able to go over things like, you know, maybe one time we talk about taxes and go into depth on that. Maybe one time we talk about compound interest and we talk about, you know, just different ways like credit, things like that. Simple things that you can kind of really dive into that are very broad topics.
Yeah.
And being able to build out a curriculum. So it's not just like, you know, this guy comes in to talk to us one time and then we don't see him again for another year. It's like, no, we're going to build out this curriculum so that, you know, each time we go in, we're talking about something else and kind of like Jake was saying, it's like building skyscrapers, putting, you know, laying a brick and laying a brick and laying a brick, and trying to make it, you know, not some long drawn out thing one time and just kind of cut it up into bite-sized pieces. Cause I know when I had extra meetings in college, that was kind of the last thing that I wanted to go to. Right? On top of, you know, I didn't want to go listen to a financial advisor talk and give me a presentation about necessarily where I should put my money. So I think just trying to relate in my mind of what would I want somebody to come in and talk about,
Yeah.
and then building it out that way.
So you guys are actually going out and talking to the teams in person and everything like that?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
that's
been
awesome.
Super cool being in the world still. Like we'll go talk to the Missouri football team here on July 9th, and he's talking to K-State and all that. So kind of just bouncing around, going to teams, meeting players. And I would say another key thing that I've realized that I think's just refreshing to people is like the low-key educational approach and letting people tell us what they want, not telling them what they need.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's not what people are used to because it's been such a high pressure salesy industry for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's that slight winning edge that makes a big difference.
Yeah. Because I feel like, especially those guys, I feel like so much of what's out there in the financial education or investment space is literally just, all right, here's what we're going to do. Put your money, and then nothing else, versus more like gearing towards what life do you want to have, and like what's the outcome versus just an X dollar amount by the end of X amount of years. So that's cool.
Absolutely. And like you look at these college athletes, up until that point, your whole life is like football, or whatever sport it is.
Yeah.
It's all you think about. And then you're kind of living your dream at that point. So you're not thinking that far in the future. You're thinking about like in the moment. And especially in the world of social media we live in today, I think so many people are just trying to impress as well. So it's so like short-term thinking. So really just starting to get the guys to at least consider shifting their mindset to 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road instead of tomorrow.
Going and blowing it on a Lambo.
What are some of the ways that you help guys have that grander vision and be able to think longer term? Is it just showing them like the examples of what those returns are going to look like, or is it breaking down limiting beliefs, or what gets them to actually open up to it?
Yeah, I would say honestly, starting out, it's like telling your own testimony. My dad always used to say, turn your test into your testimony. And I talk about just getting into the business and paying for my license. I had to go DoorDash a few hours to be able to afford it even. And then I started saving $5 a day and kind of where it's built to. But then just like you said, really laying it out and letting them actually see it. I mean, people, they don't even know what is possible with how young they are.
Yeah.
That it blows their mind, and usually it resonates with them on a high level.
Yeah. So kind of like brass tacks talking, ages 25 to 40, like what are the big things like you harp on? Let's start from a tax standpoint. Like when you're talking to somebody from a tax strategy, like what are the main key points that you're talking about and looking at?
Yeah, great question. And I would tell you, like, this actually blew my mind because I didn't learn it until I was at SFP, not in any financial planning classes or anything. But most people think taxes are high now, but we're actually in the second lowest top tax bracket in almost a century. If you look at 1953, did you know the top tax bracket was 92%?
Holy smokes. Yeah.
Isn't that ridiculous?
That's insane.
I had to research
What was the I guess equivalent to today? Like how much were you like at the top 1% that was being taxed at that?
Yeah, back then that was if you make $200K a year, which now is quite a bit.
Yeah, 2 million or something. Probably.
So I don't even know, to be quite honest, but yeah, something dramatic. But with these guys making a ton of money, it's like you never know who gets elected in the future.
Yeah.
I don't think taxes will get to 92%, but I don't like ifs. What if they get to 50, 60, 70%?
Yeah.
You know what they are now, might as well knock them out.
Yeah. And so when you're saying knock it out, like more of like a Roth strategy versus something deferred, like a 401k or
Yeah, you're spot on. And for a lot of the guys, they're making too much money to have a Roth.
Yeah.
But there's multiple other ways depending
These are
on their
loopholes.
Yeah. Building guys private pensions and stuff.
Got it.
Tax free. The NFL guys are always focused on getting into that 3-year mark because you're vested. And that means you get paid forever. But there's actually certain ways where you can build your own personal pension. So if you don't make it to the NFL 4 or 5 years after getting paid in college, you're not just going to get a normal job starting over at zero with probably a big tax bill from the money you blew. It's actually like I have that same lifestyle I would have had if I did have that NFL pension.
Yeah, I would imagine there's not a ton of guys that are thinking about that when that bonus hits their account, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been either.
But that's why you got guys like you come in and get them on the right course. That's huge.
Yeah, no, it's easy to get passionate about when you come from that background, and heck, some of the guys still playing are close friends of ours.
Yeah.
It's been very rewarding to help people that you personally know and care about on that level.
Yeah. So in this younger age, let's say that 25 to 40 range, is that typically the time when you want to be more aggressive with like growth stuff, like kind of switching gears more like investment strategy stuff?
Yeah, you're spot on. So I'll break this down for you. We call it the bucket strategy. I wish I had 3 buckets here, but we say you have your green bucket, your blue bucket, and then your red bucket. So your green bucket's like your checking, your savings, relatively safe, but you're not outpacing inflation.
Yeah.
And you want 3 to 6 months of your income in that. And then your blue bucket's your safe and secure bucket. So that would be where you give up a little of the upside, but you can't take a loss. So 7 to 9% rate of return. And often that's where that private pension would fall as well.
Yeah. What other examples are that? Is that like CDs or bonds?
Depending on rates, they could fall in that bucket, but typically their rate of return's not quite where you would want it to
Yeah.
be. So often it would be like indexed accounts.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's kind of like if the bank told you, hey, we can have a savings account where it'll track the S&P, just hypothetically. If the S&P goes up 10%, we'll credit your account 10%. But then it locks in each year. So if it crashed 30% the next year, you keep that 10% and get
Interesting.
locked in.
Gotcha.
And then the red bucket would be like your stocks and all that, which are great and all, but we go by the rule of 100. So if someone's 25, 25% of their money should be safe and secure. 75%, let's go for it. We're
Yeah.
young, be risky.
Gotcha. What's your guys' opinion on the crypto world?
I mean, I'm not too I guess invested in it. I'm not super familiar with it.
Yeah.
It's something that I feel like is becoming more and more prevalent. So something that I need to familiarize myself with a little bit more, but I haven't dabbled in it too much
Yeah.
up to this point.
Yeah, because you see some of these guys like Odell Beckham, they got like part of his contract in Bitcoin and stuff, right? So yeah.
It's fun. I got a bad story about Dogecoin.
You guys investing in it or?
Yeah, well, it was before I was in any of this, the financial world at all. So I'm not giving any advice here. Yeah. So I, very early on, I think it was just a buddy, had told me, get Dogecoin. It's going to be huge. You know how that goes. So I think I had put like $500 into it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was when everything was going crazy with COVID and all the stocks and stuff. And I was so broke back then. I wanted to buy some Penn International. That was the bar stool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I sold the Dogecoin, bought the Penn International stock, and that was the week Dogecoin just launched up. I would have had $150,000.
Oh my God.
I was sick.
Yeah.
Well, I was door dashing. I was like, man.
Oh man. Yeah. That's funny. So I mean, do you have an opinion on like Bitcoin stuff? Like, is it here to stay? Is it still kind of an iffy?
I would say the money I put into crypto, I'm not going to miss any meals if I lose it all.
Yeah.
But I think it's fun.
Yeah.
And that's the way I think.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's there's so many things out there nowadays. It's
It can kind of get overwhelming, honestly, with because you got some people that are like Bitcoin and fuck
Yeah.
everything else, but then you got the people that are just stay safe with the stock market or the bonds and all that. Yeah, it seems like there's not as many opinions as there are assholes.
yeah. And I would say like one of the greatest things right now and one of the worst things right now is in the financial world, all the access to information we do have. Because if you come in knowing nothing, you can go on social media and you can find some really convicted man or woman that is telling you to do something, and it could be great, but it could be a nightmare as well.
Yeah.
People fall into traps from that, for sure.
How much has AI influenced the financial space so far?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that.
Not tremendously yet, but man, I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah.
I think it could get very interesting because I'll definitely have clients come to me and be like, AI said this, this, and this, and this. it's not really something that planners or advisors are necessarily leaning on that much yet, but in the near future, it'll be interesting to see how the regulations accept it with,
Yeah.
with everything.
Yeah, because I feel like, I mean, I've thought about this from like a medical perspective, but like if you're able to take human dynamics and emotions out of it, there's got to be some upside there.
Yeah.
That it's probably not going to replace certain things, but maybe just amplify it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like one of our buddies is about to take the bar that works with us. He does or he will do the estate planning side of things. But I mean, in law now, it's almost like it's a accelerated, or I don't know if that's the word, but like a thing where you can use AI basically. and
Yeah.
sign off. That's pretty much what it looks like for a lot of things.
Interesting. In what capacity?
Like with the estate, and I'm no expert on this whatsoever, but on the estate planning side of things, I think for like a basic situation, it's like you type some things in AI, it lays it all out, and then the attorney just signs and gets paid.
Right?
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So to give you guys a little bit of a perspective on what it's doing in the marketing and the media world, last year around this time, you could kind of like create some images and stuff, and it was okay, but
Yeah.
they weren't incredible. It's like started to get in Photoshop and stuff. Earlier this week, I made a full album of MMG music just through prompts.
Wow.
Like you can start to make a song through a prompt now.
No way.
It's incredible. It is changing so fast, and the rate that it's improving is just unbelievable because there's so much input, and machine learning, obviously, it's going to accelerate a lot faster than a human would. And it's crazy how fast it's changing, and it's going to be very interesting what happens really just across social media in general. We talked about there being so many opinions out there and so much noise, but we're moving into a space where you're going to be able to amplify those opinions through the lever of AI so easily, because it used to take like a whole team to produce content and stuff. And now it's, if you have a whole team or if you're just an individual, you can produce content that's higher quality and at such a faster pace. It's crazy.
Are you like excited about that being a big factor in the market?
I'm excited about it. It's going to change things up a lot. We have the advantage of being a younger company that's really agile. A lot of the higher level marketing companies that are working with like Fortune 500 companies, they've been around for decades. Older systems aren't as adaptable. So I'm excited about that, but it's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of in this like pivotal space with whatever industry you're in, where kind of like adapt or die. Like if you're on the forefront of implementation and like using it to your advantage for speed and efficiency and accuracy, like, and you can take that and run with it, like you could probably start blowing everybody else out of the water that eventually gets killed off because of it. So
The gap between idea to execution is going to shrink so quickly, because like even take a website for example, like or an app. There's AIs now. I think the new release of Gemini can do it, where you can like draw the UI or the user interface of an app on a napkin, and then like explain what you want it to do, and it'll just build it.
Wow.
yeah,
So it's like now we're in a space where you can have an idea, and as long as you have the idea, we're going to be able to implement it. Whereas there was a huge gatekeeper with like, you have to have the resources to pay for a whole development team, and that's expensive, and that's going away quick. So it's exciting.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to impact so many worlds. I was actually having a conversation with a guy yesterday that was talking about this, but like songwriters and things like that. I mean, AI can just in a minute write a beautiful song.
yeah.
I'd love to hear the album that you came up with on AI.
I'll show you some after. They're good. Duramax Dreams is one of my current favorites. Duramax Dreams. We got Golden Black Summer. It's good stuff, but it's crazy, and you're exactly right. It's just off a prompt. And I always assumed that like with automation and stuff, I always thought that the artistic kind of side of things would be the last to go.
Right.
I would have thought it'd be the real simple, mundane, manual labor type tasks. And that's totally not the case.
Yeah.
Now it's like the people grinding away at the computer all day doing different types of entry, and that type of work has been, if you're really good, you're going to be able to leverage it and be even better. But
Yeah.
if you've just been skating by doing the bare minimum, I'd be worried.
Yeah. Like a few years ago, you're reaching out on Fiverr to get a logo designed or like a graphic designer and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like there's not gonna be a need for a lot of that.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting though.
It will.
It will be.
I
Yeah.
wonder like what industries, because my hope is obviously I'm excited. It's a good tool to better serve customers, but in the finance world, I feel like that human touch is important. Someone
Yeah.
you really trust. So I'll be interested to see what industries really that remains an essential part versus there's no lot or no emotions at all. I mean, here's the fact.
And that's honestly probably also an edge because things are going to get so automated. Like creativity is
Yeah.
going to be so outsourced that like you're never going to be able to overcome human connection, right?
Right.
There's no amount of development or automation that can overcome that. And so I feel like if that's honestly going to be somebody's edge, if they still have a connection piece to it, you know, like let's take like my world with fitness and nutrition. Like you can go and find whatever fucking piece of information you want,
Right.
you know, any plan and stuff. But we have access to all the information in the world, yet we're the most fat and sick that we've ever been. So it's clearly not an information issue, right? And so you can't really replace application and connectivity from a human dynamic, right? Which is where I think that you're going to be able to win. Like you can leverage the information and that time to, you don't have to go to school and read a book when you have it right at the touch of your hands.
Right.
But I don't think like AI is never going to be able to have an accountability, an application or a customization piece, like, you know, like learning somebody's life and being able to, from human to human, apply that to a certain extent. But honestly, I think that probably like the medical field, I'm kind of excited to see where that comes into play with one, like being able to just condense research and take it. Like, you know, you're not limited by a doctor that just saw 40 people and is,
Right.
you know, at the very edge of his thing. And you start talking about something, he has no idea what it is. So I'm curious to see too, like where in that realm specifically, where that's going to start coming into play.
Yeah, you would think with the ability to learn things much faster, like diseases will probably be cured.
You don't have to send somebody to med school for 7 years to
My
get
sister
the
does.
desired
Yeah,
outcome.
yeah.
Or even just, you know, even the helping them, right? Like, you know, we're probably a ways away from something doing brain surgery, but maybe not. We'll see.
We might not,
Didn't
honestly.
what's that Neuralink thing? I think Elon Musk.
The Neuralink, yeah. So that's actually kind of where my head went when you mentioned the accountability piece of like a personal connection. My first thought was whenever we actually get some good AR equipment to like, have you used any like VR stuff like the MetaQuest or the Apple Vision Pros?
Yeah,
and
a
whatnot?
little bit.
Whenever we get to the point where like kind of with the Meta glasses and stuff, something that we can actually wear, whether it's a contact lens, how cool would it be if you are, you're subscribed to David Goggins' hardcore whatever app, and then he like pops up and yells at you if you're like gonna eat some shit you're not supposed to eat.
Yeah.
And he's just always there.
Caleb's yelling at the clans.
Yeah.
It's
That's,
like, oh, put that down.
yeah.
You're like counting the macros as they're eating the food and stuff.
It'll be interesting.
The crazy world we're stepping into, like you think of if we're blessed enough to live like 100 years or whatever, like think about how much somebody that's 100 years old now saw over the last 100 years, the development of everything.
Yeah.
What we're going to be able to see is going to be insane.
Yeah. Especially like growing up, not, 'cause I mean, you guys probably didn't have smartphones.
No, I remember the little slide
Yeah.
thing.
So like you can remember that and then going throughout the world that we're coming into now. It'll be interesting. I don't know. There's going to be good and bad, like
Yeah.
anything.
It is crazy to think about. I heard I think it was my dad telling the story of my mom and him were on vacation somewhere in like 2004, and they were at the pool and they met some couple and they were like, "Here, we'll shoot you an email." And my parents were like, "What's an email?" They had no clue what it was
Yeah.
even. So thinking about where we're at now, what does 20 years from now look like?
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
Either 2004 email.
It is going to be wild. And the what I thought was going to keep VR away for a while is just the manual labor that goes into creating like a virtual reality world, like how much coding and everything goes into that. But now with the introduction of AI, like that part's,
Yeah.
I mean, how far are we from being able to put a little prompt and then it's a whole AI world?
You know what's really scary? That guy I was talking to yesterday. So he has a friend that's like big in AI. I think he has a company, but he was telling me there was this one AI where the company went to shut down the AI and it had rewritten its own code to not let
try
it
to
do
survive.
something.
I saw that.
They didn't know what to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
The AI was like, "Whoa, we're way smarter than that."
We're gonna be riding a fine cusp of, getting to like the Jetsons stage of life or Terminator. It's gonna be one or the other.
Either way, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
No doubt, it'll be a fun ride.
Yeah.
One of the things that we really like to talk about, I think you guys are perfect for it, is that the transition from like being in a competitive sport and having so much of your life go into that versus now you don't have college football anymore. How have you filled that competitive void, or was there even a void that you felt like you had to fill?
Yeah, I would say for me, the biggest adjustment was going from having somebody else building out your schedule down to the minute every single day to now with what we do with Synergy, how, in the entrepreneur space where you're responsible for building out your own schedule, setting your own appointments, creating your daily minimums and things like that, where it's like I wasn't used to that and I was used to relying on somebody else to do that. And so then when I graduated and I had all this time and I'm trying to fill that time, it was easy for me to get distracted in the beginning. So I had to create my own structure of my day and my time of, I need to do this, and this, and kind of set those daily minimums and standards, because if not, it was so easy for me to stray away because, toward the end of my football career, I was kind of, worn out of the, you need to be here at this time, do this, because wear this, to where I was like, man, like I've never had this much freedom or time in my life, but still staying on track and focused on, what was next and just like setting goals, and coming up with a true plan of how to attack that and achieve it. So
I like what you said about standards, right? Because I feel like so many people, in whatever realm it is that they're trying to accomplish, it's just like a checklist, right, to do versus a standard is a part of your life and who you are. How did you make that transition from, this is just the shit that I've got to get done and check a box versus like it's a standard for you?
yeah, I would say we had a mentor at K-State. His name is Ben Newman, and he was our performance coach. And when I was
Is he real quick? Is he the bald guy, glasses? Yeah,
yeah.
pretty popular on social media.
exactly.
Yeah.
And he always harped on us about what's your standards? What are your standards? You fall to your standards. And while I was playing football, that was just kind of something where he would come. I loved Ben. Him and I had a ton of great conversations, but at that point in my life, it wasn't something that I like received that well. It wasn't something that I was worried about. And then once I got into entrepreneurship and, didn't have that structure, I really, I reached out to him and I was like, man, like I appreciate so much the words that you had for us. I appreciate, what you ingrained in us, because now looking at that and looking back, maybe my football career would have went different if I did have these standards every single day that, I didn't sacrifice. And so I think just taking that wisdom that he shared and understanding that if I am going to set big goals, if I do want to do all these big things, that I am going to have standards and daily minimums that, I don't compromise on. And so I think that was something that, I had to do some personal reflecting of, what changes do I need to make, whether that be nutrition, exercise, things like that, just to, be able to get through the day and have energy throughout the day to be able to do the things that I wanted to be able to do. So it was kind of, for me, it was a big transition, whether that be like weight loss. I was an offensive lineman, so I had a surgery at the end of the season. I jumped on the scale right after surgery. I was like 315 pounds. I was like, man, I got to start losing some of this weight. Otherwise, I'm never going to be able to. And so I think just, trying to stay consistent through those things and not just trying to set goals in one area, but making sure that you have standards in all areas. Because I feel like if you sacrifice in one area, it's a lot easier to sacrifice in other areas.
It completely is. How you do everything, or how you do anything, is how you do everything.
Yeah.
He's been the win the damn day guy.
Win the Day. I believe so. I think one of his mentors
Okay.
came up with that. His big thing was like Pound the Stone.
Okay.
I think he's connected with First Form as well in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause you've probably ran across him. He's got a pretty big following. How did he end up at K-State? Because does he work with any colleges, or is he like a K-State guy?
He does quite a few, but our head coach, Chris Kleiman, who was a stud up at North Dakota State,
Yeah.
they got connected somehow. And then Coach Kleiman came to Kansas State and he just brought Ben along. But
Okay.
It's been all over at like Alabama and places like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he actually started out in our industry, and then I guess he got really good at talking and had a powerful story and message. So just kind of built it up from there.
Cool.
Yeah.
And for you, like, what was that transition like? Filling that void.
Yeah, honestly, kind of like Sam said, when we got out of that like strict schedule, I was sitting there like, what the heck do I do with all this time?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never had free time. It was always something that we're just either waiting to go to or going to. But the transition, honestly, like reflecting back on the experiences I did have, is one of the things I'm the most grateful for, the experiences I did have. Because for example, like I had 2 ACL surgeries on 2 shoulders, broke my hip, a pelvis, my arm in half, a few concussions. Let's read the names.
You got metal in your body, or is it all just
Quite a bit.
okay?
But obviously, when you're working hard and everything, and you get an injury like that, it can get you down. And something I learned, I think I read this in a book. It was your biggest obstacles are your biggest opportunities for growth. And so coming into the business world, coming from all those obstacles, all the discipline, the competitive edge that you develop, and just transferring that into the business world, which was something I had to figure out how to do. But man, it's been huge.
Yeah.
It's been huge. I'll be in a meeting and someone who's not from the sports world will be like, man, we're working hard. I'm like, I'm not out on the field at 6 a.m. in the snow pushing the sled. Like, this is easy.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. How has that mindset helped with transition, like in terms of like business success and what you guys learned from mentors and being, in a competitive environment?
I would say one of the biggest things for me was I knew that I had to give myself time for my efforts to compound. I didn't make it to Kansas State in a day. Started playing when I was 5. I was still blessed to be there. So really being okay with that invisible progress, knowing it takes time, having that long-term vision, that long-term goal, just like making it to play college football. Now we have another championship per se that we're chasing, making a big dent in college athletics and the country's financial illiteracy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's a pretty common theme. Like you see people that, in some capacity were involved in something competitive. And like for me, like business is like a new sport.
Yeah.
There's a level to it where like I'm obsessed with the progress and even the sucky, shitty parts of it. It's honestly, then you overcome it. It's almost just as addicting as athletically, like the losses and the wins of that.
Right.
Like I couldn't imagine not having something that I guess had the peaks and valleys quite as much. Like it makes it worth it, I think, in a lot of ways.
No doubt. I mean, obviously you're a super motivated guy. Not everyone around our age is doing stuff like this. Like, did you always know you wanted to be a business guy? Where did that start kind of?
I think I always had an entrepreneurial mind. I had a guy tell me that at one point. Like, yeah, because I came to Kansas City. Actually, I'd visited here. I had family that I would come and see during holidays from school. And so I ended up meeting a guy that did Herbalife. And so got me, I didn't even know that Herbalife was the thing, but he got me hooked on like this opportunity that I was in a company. He's like, once you graduate, dude, like come on up and like, this is we'll make sure your world is amazing. Yeah. And so, and then you figure out what the fuck Herbalife is and how big of a scheme. So I think I always had like the dream of big things and goals and accomplishments. And then afterwards, working with people, working for people, I would guess, like being employed and doing that, not in a position where I really had much room to grow, like ceiling wise. Like there was always a ceiling that I hit, and I worked for a lot of great people, but I just got to a point of like, I don't like fucking listening to anybody else. And so I got to a point where I'm like, I'm going to regret looking back and not knowing if I could sink or swim. And like, this is kind of the time to do it.
No doubt.
Yeah. So I always kind of had the drive for things, the hard work, but also kind of a rogue mentality with certain things where I didn't just want to go lock in at a boring 9 to 5 and not have any room to help grow something or be, like it never enticed me. And I think the personal growth thing really came into effect of like limiting beliefs, how I grew up thinking that you always had to have a job, right? Like, like I come from a blue collar family, a blue collar town where like that's what you did. You went and you got a job and you worked hard and you didn't quit because quitting's for losers to some extent. And so overcoming that, but then also, being exposed to the potentials and starting getting mentors, it's just continued opening my eyes for that. So long way to say I always had it. The belief system or knowing that I did wasn't always there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That was a big thing for me as well. Like not just being kind of stuck getting by, the 9 to 5 and so limited. Because I would see so many of my buddies and teammates year after year graduate, and they would have that dream of playing in the NFL. So while they were in college, they're all excited, fired up, grinding. And then I'd see, not all of them, but a lot of them go get a job, and they'd say my boss is out golfing 3 days a week. I'm grinding, but he's threatened by me, and my growth is very limited, and they're just fighting for the weekend. And I was like, man, I'm young. When else am I going to have a chance to really go for something entrepreneurial? And so, went for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's how me and Ricky met. We were both at the same gym working, and him and Lauren ended up making that call before I did.
Yeah, we jumped ship on that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. As it would turn out, running a bodybuilding gym, actually not a ton of money in that.
Really?
So when you have a whatever the entrepreneurial journey is, the bigger you can make that vision, the more talent that you're going to be able to bring onto the team. So that's one thing that we've done really well here at MMG is continuing to evolve what that vision's going to look like. And if you continue to do that, whoever the leader is of the company has to be somebody that's a visionary, somebody that they can think real big. And if that person's dreams aren't big enough for everybody else's dreams to fit inside of it, then they're going to start to look elsewhere.
Yeah, I love the quote my dad told me once of, help enough people in the world get what they want, and you'll have everything you want and more. And I found that to be so true. I feel like as a leader, that's like at its core what it is, helping others get what they want and not worrying about yourself.
Yeah. That's a big thing. So what's the vision for the company?
Yeah, man, honestly, it sounds ridiculous, but we want to have 100,000 of us across the country educating, because the problem's that big. Like you look at the military, for example, they obviously build bigger and bigger and bigger because the country needs to be protected. And not everyone makes it in the military. Plenty of them quit. And I feel like it's the same idea here. I mean, the problem is so big. If you look at stats, financial illiteracy impacts 4.5 billion people globally.
And for the people that don't know, how would you define financial illiteracy?
Yeah, just a lack of a basic knowledge of how money works. Just simple things. It's crazy, some of the experiences I've had with people, honestly sad, that they don't even know their options. They don't even think about it. And I think often it's like, if someone was overweight, they don't want to go to the doctor because they don't want to face that reality head on.
Yeah.
And same idea, they've ignored it for so long. Their parents ignored it, but you look at the definition of insanity, it's like do the same thing over and over again and expect a different outcome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it's people's fault. I think it's just a lack of resources provided for them, and our goal is to combat that on a high level.
Yeah, I mean the system doesn't help, right?
It
Like
definitely
again,
doesn't.
we don't learn this stuff anywhere.
I
So
didn't. Yeah.
No, I mean, it kind of took for me because, I growing up, my parents were able to teach me everything I needed to know about money. It was never a concern of mine. But then looking back and thinking about, once I was introduced to synergy and this opportunity and I got a proper financial education for the first time, I realized that these things aren't even close to being taught going through school, middle school, high school. I mean, I think I took a personal finance class in high school where I like learned how to write a check or like stuff like that. That it's like, and then I come away from K-State with a business degree and I didn't have any like personal finance classes going through school. So I think it's like you're just left out there on your own to figure it out through your own hardships and potential mistakes that you learn
Yeah.
from.
and genuinely, like, since you guys are in this space, you're educating. How much would you have really learned from a real life application standpoint from personal finance classes? Like, is there a direct education to real life transfer, or is there still a missing link in our financial institutions?
I feel like there is a missing link. And I think a lot of it too, for me at least, if I reflect back, because I took the classes, it was like, you got to be ready to receive it too. I
Yeah.
wasn't the best student. I didn't really care, to be quite honest.
You already had 2 practices. You're just trying to
I'm like,
survive.
I gotta get through this. There's class checkers. I gotta be here. But yeah, there's definitely a big gap with the applicable things. I think a lot of people in the system, they're just kind of checking the box. Of course, there's great teachers out there, incredible ones, but more just basic things that you can't apply to real life, the simple things.
Yeah. So if you guys were to say like 5 definitive, really applicable principles that like a young dude, let's say coming right out of college right now, or just getting into the real world could do from a financial standpoint, from a literacy standpoint, like what would be like the big buckets for somebody to do right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, great question. I would say one, you gotta know every dollar coming in and every single dollar going out. That's a huge thing. And number two, I would say, is just meet with someone you trust, and maybe even meet with a few people and kind of weigh your options with that as well. And I would say, like, really just be below your means right now. You don't need all the crazy stuff. That $10,000 watch is going to feel a lot better if it's 100,000 in your investment account down the line, right? So live below your means and really avoid debt. Of course, there's good debt, there's bad debt, but you look at some of these credit cards that college students are getting. I mean, some of these colleges, they offer you a credit card once you enroll. These crazy interest rates that you're paying on it. And then number 5, I would say, is find ways and don't be scared of ways to make extra money. Like, go for it. In this world, there's so many opportunities out there where you don't have to do what everyone else does. And if you're young and you don't have all the kids and all the responsibility, there's no reason not to go for it now. Go for something big, and if it doesn't work out, well, you'll be where everyone else typically is. But I'd say go for it.
Yeah.
With a lesson too of whatever didn't work out.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I would say to add one more thing onto that is just start somewhere.
Yeah.
I think financially, a lot of people want to get ready, like a lot of other things. And like for me, what surprised me the most is how far, $100 a month today can get you in the future. Whereas, if you wait another 10 years, how much you would have to potentially invest to get to that same amount. So whether it's, $5 a day or $3 a day, just start somewhere and build that discipline. Because I think for a lot of people, it gets to the end of the month and it's like, do I want to put some money away? I'd say just build the discipline of knowing I'm not going to have this amount of money every single month because it's going away for my future. I'm paying my future self instead of having to make that decision in your head every single month of, do I want to do this? Do I not?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point you bring up. Dollar cost averaging. It's a big thing. I feel like it's kind of like working out, right? You got to build the habit. And once you get in the habit, it's a lot easier than, if you are just trying to start from scratch. And the same thing applies with your money as well. Just build that habit, do something every single month, and you can build on it from there.
Yeah. Biggest business lesson you guys have learned when working with people, building trust and rapport?
Yeah, great question. I would say in general, talking about trust and rapport, number one, your word's all you got. If you want to lead a team, especially of people, if you slip up on your word once, you're cooked.
Yeah.
It's over. And number two, just in like conversation and stuff, you got 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. Listen a lot more than you talk, and really care about people, be genuine, be interested. People don't want to hear someone ramble. So that would be the biggest thing with relationships, I'd say.
Yeah.
It took me a while to learn.
Yeah, I would say for me, it took me a while to learn how to effectively communicate with people. Like going through college, I was not shy, but I just had my group of friends, didn't really branch out much. And so this was very new for me, talking to people that I didn't know, creating those connections with strangers, basically. So I would say just being your genuine self. I think it's easy to see all these people that are successful in your respective industry, and yes, trying to duplicate them, but also adding your own flavor into it and not trying to force anything, because people know when you're being authentic and being genuine, and people can also see when you're trying to be something that you're not. And so I think just staying true to yourself, being yourself, and just forming those genuine connections and building that trust with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's big.
But I remember when I was first starting this, my buddies, I'd be on Zoom calls in our college basement, and they would say, "I know you're working. You got your sales voice going." And I was like, "Man, that's sick. I got my sales voice." I thought I was so cool. Looking back, you nailed it. Just being authentically yourself. Authenticity, I think, is one of the most important things. And then also holding a high standard. There's no right way to do the wrong thing, and you can't budge on that either.
Yep.
You gotta have a high standard in everything that you do, because at the end of the day, like when you're looking back, you're the only one that has the context of whether or not you did the right thing. And that's who you're gonna be talking to, is that man in the mirror. And if you're not doing the small things, then you're gonna know that. And more often that you do the hard things, especially when nobody's watching, at least for me, the more that I know I'm going to be able to do big things in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So with what you guys have got going on, if somebody needed to get more education, they wanted some services and stuff, like what would you guys offer? Somebody listening to the podcast, they needed some help with their financial literacy.
Yeah. Yeah. We do all of our education for free, even at these teams and everything. If you love our education and we do a great job, then that's how we make money for it. But yeah, reach out on Instagram if you want it. Jake Huggins 27. That's how we met each other. But
Yeah.
I do a lot on Instagram, and yeah, we can give a free education, whether it's to an individual, an organization, a family, a business, whatever it is. We're happy to help.
And then once you guys, I guess, you crush it, somebody's in there, you guys can take care of anything financial related, right? Tax strategy, investment, all the stuff you've got. Guys.
You're exactly right. And if there's something I can't do, I got somebody who can. And yeah, so after the education, we call it the 7 steps to complete your financial house. And it's basically just a custom tailored process to help people transition from whatever they're at to wherever they want to be. Real simple. We try to keep it simple for folks.
Love it.
Yes, sir.
Good stuff.
Great stuff.
I think that's a wrap. Awesome.
Well, we appreciate you guys coming on, man.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Jake.
guys.
Appreciate you. So you mentioned Instagram. Sam, where can people find you?
Yeah, it's sam.shields66.
Cool. And then business related website. You guys have an Instagram for the business, anything like that?
Yeah. So you can go to synergyfinancial.com
Cool.
on the internet. And then if you go to the education center, there's a bunch of client facing educational videos that are really good.
Perfect.
Cool. All right,
Awesome.
gentlemen. Good stuff.
Thank you all very much for
Yeah.
having us on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a great time.
Good.
Appreciate you guys.
That's a wrap, guys.
We'll catch you guys later.
Peace.